Thanks, everybody. Great to be here and appreciate FCM's awarding this to us. We certainly feel humbled by the recognition. I'm not here alone, although I look like I'm alone. There are a lot of people behind me. A lot of people worked on this project. Oh, I should slide. Move forward a little bit. This roadmap to net zero was a cohort project and absolutely a collective effort. I have a project team that worked on this for over 2 years. We had 7 municipalities contribute 9 rinks, municipalities of the City of Barrie, City of Brampton, Town of Caledon, Town of Halton Hills, Township of King, City of Markham, and City of Toronto all contributed their, put time and effort and took a chance on a pilot project to look at net zero in their ice rinks. You might wonder why ice rinks. If you live in a municipality, you probably know. You probably can answer this question for me. Ice rinks are usually the biggest energy hogs. They are the showcase building, and it's where everybody gathers. So it was a natural fit for this for a pilot project. If you were going to start with the building, it seemed like a good one. They're also complicated. They're not straightforward. Administration buildings can be pretty straightforward. Other fire halls can be pretty straightforward, but ice rinks are complicated and they're usually unique configurations. So we developed this pilot project as a response to our members. We have run a program for 20 years for municipalities in Ontario, and it's member driven, and what they're interested in is what drives our content. So they were interested after there was a climate emergency declared in most of our member municipalities, they were interested in taking concrete steps. What do we do next? Where do we go from here? How can we actually take action? People were chomping at the bit to really get going on doing something interesting and getting their teeth into this. It has been absolutely inspiring to hear all of the things that are going on now, but in 2019, that wasn't the case so much. It was a lot of talk. So we put the pilot project together to help everybody take action at the same time. So what were we trying to achieve? What we wanted to do was have individual feasibility studies for each of these buildings that was achievable, that used technology that already existed, that was, that aligned with municipal timelines. So some of our municipalities had very aggressive net zero goals. Some of them had very a long timeline on those goals. And I think we can already see some of those municipalities now have sped up their goals, but in this case, there were some that were kind of a little bit tentative about taking that step. I'm looking at the French one. Sorry about that. We wanted this to be a collaborative process. Our view always is that collaboration gets the best results. If we're going to move on climate change, we need an ecosystem of net zero. So that means you can't leave anybody behind. And in conversations during this conference, there are conversations about, contractors, operators, facility managers. All of those people have to be on board with this process. We wanted to integrate an integrative design process. We feel that's the best approach, because you get everybody's input at the start rather than waiting till the end to figure out that, oh, wait, that's not how we use that building. Because often we find in design projects, nobody talks to the operator. That operator's left on their own. And then at the end, they have a really insightful piece of information that got lost in the process. So we wanted that to happen. And the other reason to do that is you need them on board. It's a great way to start that engagement process. Oh, sorry. Back up. Slide operation. The other thing is we wanted to make a business case for net zero. A couple of years ago, that was a much more difficult thing to envision. And with a business case for net zero retrofits, we wanted to start using life cycle costing. Part of what we did in the project was to talk to capital and procurement to start that conversation around how do we start thinking about the value of our buildings, because it's not just the immediate value, it's the asset life value. So that was also important. So to do this, we took a 4-step process. We started with looking at operational savings first. then capital retrofits, then look at heat recovery. I don't know if any of you caught the Simcoe refrigeration presentation yesterday at lunch, but Jordan went into great detail on this particular aspect. So luckily I don't have to in this, but I would highly recommend taking a look at their presentation. But the idea of heat recovery is huge and has not been considered to this day. And ice rinks are a natural place, especially if you have a pool. We then looked at renewables. Oh, my slides went back, sorry. Then we looked at renewables, and last but not least, if it had to be covered off with any purchase credits. All of the measures were timed to maximize savings. So big impact up front, look at all of the energy efficiency to start, then look at heat recovery, then capital improvements, maximizing GHG emission reductions, and replacing equipment when they reached end of life. And the little funny dots along the bottom are how we timed when you do the project in alignment with your asset management plan or your capital plan. Obviously, the great thing about having a plan is that if funding comes along, you've got a plan. And there's a lot of talk in this conference about GICB funding. Everyone who participated in this pilot had a feasibility study ready to go for funding, which really helped the process. So what were the results? It's kind of interesting. We like to do a before and after comparison. So you can see a range of how efficient the arenas were to begin with on an equivalent kilowatt hours per square foot basis. This is for the engineers in the room, if there are any engineers. Love their data. Oh, there they are. Love their data, love their metrics. I'm not an engineer, but I work with a lot of them. So it's quite a wide range of how intensive these arenas were, and that it is reflective somewhat of the fact that they were quite different arenas. Not only did we have municipalities of different sizes participating, but the arenas were quite different. We had your classic like rink with a roof kind of deal, one rink, that's it. And we also had 4-pad arenas with a lot of recreational space around it. So there was really a wide range, which kind of gave us this nice range in terms of how energy intensive they were to start and how unintensive, if that's a word, unintensive they could be if you undergo these deep retrofits. So you will notice we had one very aggressive municipality that wanted to get right down to 0. So they have 100%. They wanted to know what it would take to get all the way with retrofits. And we also have Ice Rink 9, and Markham is here with us. And they will know that ice rink in the middle of our pilot process, they decided they were going to tear down the rink. So we just provided operational improvements as opposed to the full net zero process. So how many emissions can we save? Overall, it was about 2,500 tons of equivalent tons of CO2 equivalent overall for all 9 rinks, which is pretty impressive. It's only 9 rinks. And one of them wasn't really trying to save that much because we were tearing it down. As you can see, the range goes from 79 to 99% reduction. Where were these savings to be found? So primarily was in the refrigeration system. Again, if you have anything to do with ice rinks, you know what a beast those are, and that's a big piece of where the energy goes, especially the fossil fuel burning equipment. Then it was heating. So heating's the next piece. And then really surprisingly was resurfacing. And for anyone who's in ice rinks, resurfacing is when you resurface the ice. Traditionally, that's done with hot water, but you can save a lot of greenhouse gas emissions by using cold water. So that's something of interest. I don't know if people are thinking about that. That is, it seems like a logical step, but this is again where getting people involved in the process really matters, because there's a lot of operator resistance to cold water resurfacing. Ice is what they pride themselves on. How good your ice is makes all the difference. That's all that people care about. You know, the hockey team wants really nice, smooth ice. Figure skaters need different ice. So That's actually quite difficult, and we would suggest really socializing it. We do have on our website some videos of communities who have done it, if you're interested. So everyone likes to know about a real life example. We have the Acton Arena and Community Center in Halton Hills. This is a fairly, for those of you who are not from Ontario or near Toronto, this is a medium-sized community, about 70,000 people just outside of Toronto, sort of bordered by rural area. So they have all the fun of urban nearby and rural as well, and agricultural. So it's a bit of a mix. They have a bit of a mix. This arena is a full, it's got 4 pads, operates for the winter, not during the summer, has a leisure rink as well as the ice pads. And I think I have all that information here. Oh, no, sorry. And it has the benefit of an operator that's been there since the building was built. For those who are in facilities, the operations is everything. We build a building, but you don't think about how it's going to run for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years that you own that asset. And who runs the building really makes a difference to how efficient and how well run it is. This building is a really well run arena. So when we look at the measures that we looked at, you won't see operational savings because they'd mostly got them all. It was pretty amazing. So we looked at heat recovery. That's part of the, what was our options? There was the BAS. We really recommended putting in a BAS because what we find in a lot of arenas is there's a very minimal BAS. And as soon as that operator retires, all your knowledge walks out the door and then you're back to square one. So consider it an investment in intelligence, not just data. It's going to be it's an investment in your intelligence. So it was a really interesting case. You can read, do the lessons learned. So lessons learned from this collection of data was insane. I would highly recommend you get organized for anything you do around collecting all the data you need. Don't ignore operational savings. You can get started on those right away. You can get you don't need an expert to get in there. You can start looking at what's running at night. What do you keep? What's running when it shouldn't? What's running on the weekend when no one's there? Get started on those. And BAS automation. The automation system is really key. You're going to need that to go into net zero. So you might as well get started on installing it. I don't want to make a GMF plug here, but there is some money. Take advantage. So luckily for me, I worked with FCM, our group did, and we have a guide. So if you want to know more or want to take action or want to know the details and all the technical piece on how this was done and all the statistics and data we got from our cohort project, it's available here on the GMF website. And we see all of our participants, the people who took advantage of this cohort project, they're all moving into the next stage quite easily. So I would highly recommend it. And if you have any other questions or you want to reach out to me, this is my information. Thank you very much.